Hey guys, plant-based Gabriel here, and today we're going to be making my whole food plant-based apple stuffing. Now this goes along with the rest of my holiday recipes. Hopefully this is one that you guys go ahead, give a try, and everybody loves at your upcoming get-togethers. And if you do or haven't already, please go ahead, like this video, like the page, subscribe on YouTube. It really helps, and it helps you guys stay up to date with new recipes as soon as they come out. But for this recipe, all we're going to need is one baguette. We're going to make sure it's oil-free and vegan. Whether or not it is whole wheat is up to you, depending on what you think will be more palatable at your get-together. We've also got 2 medium-sized red sweet apples, 2 medium-sized onions. We also have 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. We like to get it already minced, packed in water from our grocery store. If not, you can always just mince up 4 cloves, around 4 cloves of garlic. We've got a dry spice mix of 1 tablespoon of sage, 1 teaspoon of rosemary and thyme, and then 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And then lastly, we have 1 1/4 cups of veggie broth. We're going to use 1/4 of that to 1/4 of a cup to go ahead and saute our vegetables in. So I'm going to bring you guys in here, and we're going to get started on this recipe. The very first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is cut up our loaf of bread into around 1/4 pieces so that we can go ahead and get it drying off and baking in the oven. So why don't you go ahead now and get the oven preheated to about 250 degrees, and then we're going to go ahead and cut this loaf up. All right, our pieces have been cut up into these nice 1-inch pieces. We are just going to go ahead, spread that out on our baking dish. I'm going to get this in the oven at 275 or 250 degrees for somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes. Make sure you go ahead and check at 25. I'm going to get this over there, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to get started on the rest of our vegetables. Next, we're going to go ahead and cut up our apples. Just kidding. We're going to go ahead and cut up our onions first. I'm just going to go ahead, dice them up into nice fine pieces, making sure they're big enough where we're going to still have that nice texture when the stuffing is all said and done. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all cut up. Okay, our onions have been chopped up. Now we're going to go ahead and take the onions, our minced garlic, and the veggie broth, which we're going to use 1/4 cup of, over to the stove and get that sauteing. Now, I get asked a lot, how do you saute without oil? And we're going to do it right now. It's pretty simple. First off, I'm going to turn my stovetop onto a medium heat, and then we're going to go in, add my garlic, add the onion, and we are going to add in 1/4 cup of our veggie broth. And those onions should sweat down a good amount. We want to make sure that they're pretty translucent when we cook them, or when we get them done. So we're going to put that on the stovetop for around 8 minutes, checking every few minutes, stirring. If you have to add a little bit more water, you can always go ahead and do that, but we'll be back in about 8 minutes. And while those onions are cooking, we're going to go ahead and cut up our apples. Now we're going to want them in around 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch pieces so they get broken down nicely, but they'll still keep their texture as they bake. So let's go ahead and get these cut up. That looks perfect. Now our apples are cut up. We'll just wait for our bread to get done toasting and our veg to get done sauteing. Okay, our timer just went off. Our veggies look nice and sauteed. The onions are starting to go translucent, which is just what we want. So let's take this over to the countertop, and now all we need to do is wait for our bread to finish up crisping in the oven. We've got our sauteed onions and garlic, and we've got our apples that we've already chopped up, and then we also have our bread, which has been nice and toasted. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and add my veggie broth to the onions. Now, this does a couple things. It makes it a little easier to get out, and it also is going to help cool down those onions a bit so that they don't cook too quickly, those apples. Next, I'm going to add in my spice mix, and we're just going to make sure that this is nice and mixed very thoroughly. That looks good. Then we can add that right on in. And then lastly, we'll just go on with our bread. Get that in there. Now, as this cooks, you're definitely going to notice that I'm making a mess. But you're definitely going to notice that those apples are going to break down. So we want to make sure to try to get this as mixed up as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and get this nice and mixed. And we're actually going to get a bigger bowl to help mix this a little bit easier. I've got my bowl, and so we're just gonna empty that in there, and that will make mixing a whole lot easier. That looks nice and mixed. We're just gonna transfer this over to our baking dish, and then we're gonna take it over to the oven. Now, I cannot believe I almost forgot this, but we are going to be using 1 more cup of veg broth. So you are going to need 2 1/4 cups of veg broth, and all we're going to do is make sure that we have that nice and coated on top. And now we can take this over to the oven. Now, our oven has been preheated to 375, and we are going to put this in for 25 to 30 minutes, making sure we're gonna check at 25, and we'll see you when that is done baking. All right, the oven just went off. It smells absolutely delicious. It looks fantastic. I'm gonna get the kitchen cleaned up a little bit, and Bella's and Bubbles right there in the kitchen as well, but we're gonna get this dished up, let it cool down a little bit, and I'll see you guys in just a second. Okay, I am back. I got the kitchen tidied up, and I am here with my apple stuffing. I've got to say, it looks and smells absolutely delicious. I would normally have a fork or a spoon here, but I forgot it. So we're just gonna dive in just like this. Absolutely fantastic. It's got some sweetness from the apple. It's got, earthiness from that sage and rosemary. And then it just comes all together with that veggie broth. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. I will say this ended up taking, my oven seemed like it was going a little bit lighter here. So it took at 375, it ended up taking around 40 minutes for me. So what I would recommend, if your oven does run a little bit slower, mine normally doesn't run like that, but it did today. I would recommend going up to about 385 to 390 for that 25 to 30 minutes. Or if you want to do 375 and keep checking it after 25 minutes, you'll know the consistency that you want with it. But with that being said, it turned out absolutely fantastic. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. If you go ahead and give it a try, please let me know how it goes in the comment section below. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you hit that like button for this post and to the page, and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps out a lot. And this recipe, my past recipes, and all my future recipes will be able to be found at plantbasedgabriel.com. I am Plant-Based Gabriel. Thanking you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you very, very soon.